Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. You know, I'm not always a fan of taking a negative approach to things, but what I've found is that by identifying something negative or that contrasts with your expectations or contrasts with your goals, you become so much clearer about what you don't want than what you do want. And I think that aspiration is a little blurry, but I think what you want to avoid is super clear. So, in that vein, I wanted to actually go through the three people that I think you should avoid if you want to grow your business, because I've met these people, you've met these people, but sometimes we need a little reminder. And as I describe these people to you, if you think of somebody, well, there you go. But we've all encountered these people. And I think that, I need this reminder too. By the way, like most of these episodes I record are a lot of self talk to myself on like, hey, we should make sure we're doing this. It's good advice. And I need to, practice what I preach sometimes a little bit more because those people pleasing tendencies take over and the customer service takes over. And you just want to avoid conflict sometimes. But I think that you can find ways to respectfully avoid these types of people and not put yourself in a position where you're unnecessarily exposed to them. I'll put it that way. So, number one, anyone who disrespects your time. And this goes a couple of core examples I'm going to describe. One is the one that's constantly making excuses that they're too busy, the people that stand you up for phone calls. They make things harder for you, put you through hoops to get things done. The people who are not responding to you. And I understand that people take a while to respond to things but if they're not respectful of your time and you've communicated some form of urgency and they're not really respecting that or even acknowledging it, it's kind of a sign. And I would say on the other side of it is other people who are asking a lot of you without giving anything. So people who are asking you for advice for free, people who are asking for your time on the calendar, like out the gate in a DM, people who are trying to find a way to gain something from you, but don't have a compelling value proposition on how they can help you. Meaning like they haven't bothered to get to know you, but they're asking you for something. That drives me crazy, by the way. So it's really key that you avoid people who don't respect your time. And I think all of these are core examples of people not respecting your time. And although they may not realize that's what they're doing, they're sending signals that, hey, I don't respect your time as much as mine. So I'm not willing to follow your process, or I'm not willing to pay you for your time, or I'm not willing to pay for this advice, or I'm not willing to move my calendar around to accommodate you, which is fine. But I'm just saying you want to acknowledge those patterns of behavior. And by all means, I don't mean people who stand you up one time because of an oopsie in the coordination. I'm talking about the people who make this a repeat offense. I had this one client for over a year, and we were nearly certain that every CFO call we had with this client, they weren't going to show up. They were going to show up late, or they would be in the car and completely, disconnected, not present. And that was the case, I think, on 100% of CFO calls. And we just had to say, hey, this isn't working. Now, whose fault is that? In my opinion, mine. Not setting proper expectations, not saying, hey, this is what we expect of you, not really drawing those boundaries and saying, a good CFO client looks like this, and this is how we want to interact with you. Instead, what I did was we tolerated it and said, well, we're here at your service. You set the pace. You tell us when you want to talk. That is not good, because then they're in control, but they're not the expert on what would enable their success. So imagine if you hired a personal trainer and then the personal trainer said, Instead of saying, which I prefer, instead of saying, "Hey, Shannon, we're going to do 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we're going to train for an hour. And this is what I work on. I need you here 5 minutes before we start to get ready and to get situated and make sure all the equipment is set for you." Okay, great. Expectation set. But if the trainer says, "We're going to work together. I have your weight loss goal right here. You just come in whenever you feel like it. You just come in whenever you feel like it." Do you know how many times my ass would walk through that gym door when I felt like it? There'd be a handful of times, but there would always be something that I had to do logically in my brain that I was gonna avoid that to go do. So, when you talk about your clients or your customers, this is really key. Setting the right expectations of how you want people to interact with respecting your time. So I would avoid people who make it a habit to do that.
Hey, it's Shannon, and I wanted to remind you that the love language of podcasters is reviews. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple of seconds just to leave us a review if you're enjoying this show, we would really, really appreciate it. Okay, back to the show.
The other one, number 2, people who are overly price sensitive and are not in your target market. And I mean this from the standpoint of marketing. So, what I've found is that, business owners, good people, trying to solve problems, trying to save the world. I get it. I'm there. I'm with you on this one. I'm talking to myself too. We want to help everybody. We don't want to turn down the opportunity to help somebody. We would feel bad if we weren't able to work with somebody and they didn't find success. We also we hold the recipe to success, and whatever problem we solve, we hold that recipe card. And who are we not to cook it for them if I know they're going to love it? And this was really hard for me to grapple with, was really being more selective about client selection, because people who are overly price sensitive in the sales process, meaning they were already breaking the bank to work with us, would become difficult clients because they would basically look at every little feature, little communication, little interaction and be nitpicking it, trying to extract and squeeze out, like, "Hey, what's the value we got out of this? What's the value we got out of that? And are we getting value quickly?" And it's like, we have to be able to go and onboard and do all these things. Like, it takes a while to serve. It's just like a trainer. Like, you don't get, six pack of abs overnight. You have to actually go through the process. But if you're breaking the bank at Equinox for a trainer and you're paying the trainer, like, I don't know, $200 a session, like 5 times a week, can you imagine? I mean, people probably do that. But if you're paying that much money, you're like, "Well, damn, I wanna see abs a lot sooner. I wanna see, like, am I getting my money's worth here?" And it's gonna cause people to question that. Rightfully so, because this is just kind of like a human nature psychology thing. Like, you're breaking the bank, you're spending a lot of money, you're pushing yourself for this, you're making an investment emotionally and taking a leap of faith, so to speak. And my advice is to avoid people who are making that leap of faith to work with you. And that might go against a lot of people's opinion, but I think that if somebody is really stretching themselves to work with you to the point where they're like taking a loan, asking for other money, using their credit card that's already in the red, if they truly cannot afford your business, your product or service, then I would not push it. I would not oversell it. I would just avoid that because it's going to be more trouble than it's worth. I'm just telling you. And then the last one is people who complain excessively. Now, I'm not talking just about customers, I am talking about in general. So, all of these people who disrespect your time, people who are overly price sensitive, and people who complain a lot, these people are, in my opinion, like a toxic trifecta of ways that you will basically feel terrible about your own business. And it's not just customers, it's team members, it's vendors, it's anyone you interact with in your business, anyone you interact with, anyone you transact with. If you're around people who complain excessively, this is a problem because it will bring out this negative energy. We all know that. Like, when you have that in your surroundings, it's really hard to come out of that kind of mindset. But also, you're going to start seeing everything with kind of that gray lens, like Eeyore, and you're going to be finding the negative in certain things, or you're going to be dwelling on negative things and really wasting time. Honestly, people who complain excessively are just extra noise in your ear. They're not adding value. They're not helping you progress toward your goals. They're kind of taking a victim mentality most of the time. And I'm not here for it, honestly. I'm just really not. Like, people who complain a lot just exhaust me because I have nothing to respond. I have nothing to contribute. I have nothing to really argue about. I'm just going, that sucks. And like, it's a conversation killer, honestly. I feel for people who go through hard times, but I think there are some of those people, and you know them, who almost make it an Olympic sport to complain all the time. Like everything's going wrong. And if they can only see that and they don't do anything about it, then it's just unproductive. So I would avoid those people like the plague. And I think, in theory, all of these people should be avoided. But I can nearly guarantee you that, within your last maybe 10 to 20 text messages, DMs, or whatever, emails, you'll find one of those people. And you'll realize that there's somebody trying to take your time, trying to stretch your prices, trying to kind of take your energy away. And I shouldn't say trying. They are, but they're maybe not trying. They don't realize they're doing it. So, what you have to do is find a way to disassociate with these people somewhat politely. And what I always like to do is provide an alternative solution to them if they want it, or I at least make it super clear that I don't think I'm the person who can solve this, so that they realize that I'm not the person to come to with these types of problems. So if they want free mentorship from me, I'll say, hey, unfortunately, I don't offer any sort of mentorship that you're looking for here, but you should try this person. I actually try to find an alternate solution, and not just to pawn them off on my friends, but because I actually think that other people are better positioned to help them. And then similarly, if you find people who complain a lot, then I always say, I'm not really sure if this is super productive in moving you toward your goal. What's one thing that like you could do that would move you toward your goals, and we could just like let go of whatever this issue is? If they are your friend in theory, if they are somebody that you want to keep a relationship with, I would take that approach. Otherwise, I would honestly just say, I really don't have a lot of space in my energy for this type of interaction. Whatever way you want to do it, it's a little woo woo y, but whatever way you can politely walk away from that is good. And I would strongly recommend that you take a good hard look at the people you surround yourself with and the people you allow exposure to. You allow their voices in your ears because your time, your energy is super valuable and should be protected. So, the best way to do that is to kind of acknowledge these personalities, these people, and make it a conscious decision to actively avoid them, but also find their polar opposites. Find people who root for you, respect your time, people who, are willing to pay your prices twice on Sunday and refer you, and people who are going to cheer you on and cheer others on in front of you. And that's really the type of energy that you're going to want and what will help you succeed in business, hands down.
Okay, so if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know I love talking about profit and cash flow. But if you've mastered these things, the next level thing to be focused on is your customer value. If you have to constantly hustle to sell more and hit your revenue goals, it's important to think about how you can deliver more value, build retention, and maximize the lifetime profitability of every customer. When you invest in a power session, we're able to dive into your customer acquisition cost and determine some personalized strategies to decrease your costs and increase the lifetime value of your customers. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.